Welcome everybody. It's Tuesday the 10th of December 2024 and we have tonight a webinar with Sharon Mangion and she's going to be talking about paper 1, the common elements of AQA and Edexcel A-level. And this is part of our series of clinics. We've had Vanda, Marshall, and we'll be having other people at other times. Here are some of the people you're going to hear. And I apologise, we were going to be able to tell you exactly when the date is going to be, but we've decided it's definitely going to be after Christmas. We're going to let you have a few weeks off before we come with another webinar. Okay, so we really hope that people here are members of ALL, and if not, that you will feel that you really want to join. If you are a member, could you put in the chat now that you're a member, and really encourage people to join us. So everything that we do here, it's free to you to come, but obviously people have put effort into preparing it, and it does cost a bit of money to have the webinar platform, etc. So it'd be great if you could join us. There's a QR code there of a page which I've created, which is where anything that comes from this webinar will be stored. So you can either follow that link, you'll have this PowerPoint afterwards, or you can look at the QR code. And just generally, we have got loads of webinars, I think nearly 200 webinars recorded that you can go and look at a list and you can find them there. But really excitingly, coming soon, really is soon, Saturday the 18th of January, we're delighted that Harris Academy and Bermondsey have said that we can use their premises. So we can't use the BFI this year, we're going to go back to the next year, but great that we can go there. I think it'll be nice to visit a school, and they are going to be giving us a presentation about how they organise teaching and learning, but there'll also be lots of opportunities to talk about new GCSE, and for people who are in primary, they'll be able to have a session on primary. But it would be great if as many of you as possible can come. It's really cheap for anybody, but particularly if you're an ALL member. So please sign up for that. And then looking ahead to the 14th and 15th of March 2025, Judith Refizer of ALL London is our national president this year, and she's putting together a really good conference. I've been helping her put together the programme today, actually. Got some excellent speakers who will be announced in a couple of weeks' time. So it'd be lovely if you could come to that. So I'm now going to pass over to Sharon. There she is. She's asked for a different photo. That one. So here we are. This is what the focus is, looking on paper 1 of Edexcel and AQA. And after, I mean, the whole point of this is really meant to be something where people can air any concerns they've got, any questions. So as you were saying, weren't you, Sharon, as you talk, if anybody want to ask, just put it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Either interrupt at that point, or we could do it then. And indeed, if anybody wants to say something, you'll right at the end. Well, when I stop the recording, I'll make it so people can put on their videos and use what. So that's the idea. And that's who Sharon is.
Yeah.
That's how she describes herself. So she's the teacher, a lead examiner for AQA for a number of years, real enthusiast, but actually, yes, I've put the picture should have been there. She is the person. Okay, I shall stop sharing and then pass over to Sharon.
Lovely. I will just get my screen. And is this okay? You can see the screen. Brilliant. Hello, everybody. So as Helen said, I'm Sharon. I've been part of the ALL for about 24 years, I think, since I was a PGC student, and I have never left. So it's a lovely community, and if you would like to join at some point the committee, it would be really nice to have you, as you can do as little or as a lot as you can give, and there's just a lovely way to keep abreast of what's going on outside of the usual sort of school that you work in. Now, I'm just going to get now on to the point of this paper 1. Now, first of all, I need to make a sort of a bit of a statement here. I'm not endorsing any exam board, even though I am lead examiner of the Italian AQA writing. But it's everything I'm saying here is from experience. Things that I've tried and tested, and what I am using today are snippets from reports of examiners, sort of recent exams, some exam questions. And what I talk about similarities, because it's absolutely impossible to look at every single question that comes up and what we can do, what we can't. So what I always try and, well, what I'd like from a sort of a CPD is to get some ideas of what I can do to help my students further. So I'm going to share what I do and some members of my department do as well. And then please, as Helen said, feel free to sort of, put your comments across. If you've got any suggestions and so on, that's brilliant. You will get a copy of this PowerPoint at the end. There is a lot of sort of spiel from the reports, but I'm not obviously going to be reading out. I'm just going to point out certain bits, so then you can read at your leisure. And at the very end, I've got some resources that I've used myself. They're not exhaustive, but they're ones that I'm sort of recently more sort of leaning towards, but not for any particular reason, just to get something different and up to date. Now, if I go, so yeah, this is my plan of action. So basically, I've been teaching for about 14 years A level, 20 something in general, but A level Italian for about 14 years, and French A level AQA 5 years on and off. So I am using today both Italian examples and French examples. I have looked obviously at the German and Spanish. I know there are other languages that are taught there, but for the most part, they all follow the same themes that I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to look at some similarities and differences between AQA and Edexcel for just paper one. The sticking points, what I mean by that is the students, about some of the listening skills, the reading skills and translation and grammar, and as I said before, the resources. Now we'll start with similarities with Edexcel AQA. This, like I said, is just showing you Italian, but from Edexcel point of view, it's very similar. Obviously, this is pertaining to Italian, and then particularly in unit themes, 3 and 4, they will vary depending on Spanish or German or whichever other language. But in terms of the changes of a target language society, you can see in French and AQA and Italian Edexcel very similar. The artistic culture, political artistic culture, and so on. So with that reason, then, when we are preparing students for paper one, it doesn't matter which board really you're doing, you're sort of following the same key skills. Okay. Now we'll start with the listening comprehension, and what I was looking at, that both boards are quite prescriptive in the questions, which is Edexcel more so, in that that in question 1 it's always going to be the multiple choice. Question 2, you've got a few free open-ended answers. And question 3 is generally an interview, and question 4 is some more questions and then a summary in Italian, but very short. And in terms of, for example, here, as I said, in Edexcel question 3, we've got some interview questions, and this is one of the sticking points, which I'm going to talk about in more detail shortly. Where students must answer in the third person, and that's a similar thing with question 4 for AQA, where you got a reportage or an interview. And then with some of the examiners' reports on a yearly basis, they're constantly making notes, or making a note, of the lack of verbs that are in the students' answers, as in not just the verbs, but the correct tense and the correct person. So the first, for every example I use, by the way, you will see at the top, I try to put it all the same color, so where it's from. So should you want to go and have a look at the whole report later, you can go obviously to the website of Edexcel or AQA. So for question 3, something that sort of caught my eye here is the highlighted part. So that some students lost marks for not being precise enough in their answers, which got this bit there. Some did not use a verb, or they didn't say enough, which did not convey the message. And then, for example, with reflexive pronouns, and that happens in a lot of the MFL languages we teach in the UK here, it's forgetting that reflexive pronoun, which then can, with some languages, change the meaning of that verb. So for example, what we've got here, I'm sorry if this is a bit small, but like I said, you can have a look later. What I've got here on the left is 2 examples of the question of an interview. This is from Edexcel, where the interview, obviously here on the bottom, I have the part of the transcript there, which is currently here written, for those who don't speak Italian, in the present tense, third person plural. So, for example, here we've got the verb organizziamo. The question, I will say in Italian, then translate. So, quale iniziativa sta facendo Lara per beneficenza? So, what initiative is Lara doing? So, they have to answer in the third person. What she says is organizziamo, we organize. However, they need to then make sure that they answer in the third person singular. This is the mark scheme, organizza. Okay, and then there is an option, obviously, because they have to give 2 reasons. The second thing they mention here is stiamo per mettere all'asta oggetti. We are about to put person objects or donate person objects, and therefore they need to change stiamo to sta. So what would you do as a teacher here? So you would give them, I mean, my suggestion, but please feel free to suggest some more things. Give them maybe already the infinitive to start off with, and then just say, just don't ask them to conjugate the whole verb, but just the main key verbs, as we also do for GCSE, which is, you know, give me the third person, the noi form, or the nous form in French, the we and the they, you know, just so pick a couple, and then you can do that with different tenses, because you can have, for example, if you look at B here, perché da adolescente era considerata? So how was she considered? So here you got obviously the pluperfect. So in the second part at the bottom here, where it says F1 in green, mi truccavo, mangiavo, mettevo. So all of these are in the first person imperfect. They then have to put it into the third person imperfect. So this is where the examiner report was mentioning mi truccavo. A lot of students could not manage the me changing to si, for example, and French would be se, and the mangiavo to mangiava, you know, and unfortunately, although it's not in the reject column here, they will not give them the mark. Okay, so that I feel with mocks particularly, you know, it always comes up. It's more not just, they don't have to sort of use their own words here. You're just changing the verb. Okay, so I don't know if anyone wants to comment at this point. Are we okay?
Yeah, I think so. Just to encourage people to say, you're right. I mean, reported speech is something that we don't really do before.
Yeah.
Do we? It's something in the olden days, it used to
Yeah.
be part of what you had to do, but it's something which is new to them, isn't it? Often?
That's right. So yeah, just a, you know, even a little starter at the beginning of a lesson, that would be good, with a mini whiteboards and so on. And then here is the French version. Don't know, sorry, it is quite small. Can you see it? For me, it's a bit small here, but so we've got here, this is from question 4 of AQA. So if you do teach AQA, you will recognize. So we've got here, hang on, sorry, I need to make a bit bigger because, yeah. So, le travail d'intérêt général en Belgique. So, we've got here, I'm going to show you this already, yeah. So, we've got the transcript down here. The listening, the person on the listening will say, j'ai fugé. If you can see there, the question, quel comportement à risque est-ce que Alex a adopté pendant sa adolescence? So, here again, you've got the perfect tense. The transcript, the speech is in the first person, and the perfect tense, they have to change it to the third person. So that's one of the answers. And then pour aller scotter, and then they have to then change it for aller scotter to il a scotter. And please feel free to correct me on pronunciation. And finally, j'ai commencé à abuser de l'alcool. Il a abusé. So using examples like this, and I'm very, I should do more of it, to be fair, but if you do show your students following mocks and so on, what examiners want, because this is how we also know. It's, you know, really important that teachers do read the examiners' reports. I mean, from a personal point of view, I can tell you, it is quite frustrating sometimes when you see students year in, year out, after having written a report and just saying, please look at this, please look at that, and it's still not done. This is how examiners are telling you what is needed to be done with the students. So I just can't recommend that enough. And they are on the website to have a look, even if you don't want to download it for the students, please, direct them to there. Any questions so far? Okay. Now, with the summaries, between Edexcel and AQA, there's a very big difference. So for Edexcel, you just have there's 4 listening activities. Question 4 is divided into A and B. 4A in the Edexcel, for those who don't know, has a series of questions as just a listening comprehension. And this is for Edexcel. And then there is in 4B 2 sections of, as you see here, 3 bullet points in B little 1, and then there's another 3 for little 2. For here, I've just focused on the first 3 from Edexcel Italian Paper 1, 2022. So what we've got here is the question for the student. Rassumi i vantaggi menzionati da Federico. So there is a debate between 2 students, and what the first of this bullet point is asking is to summarize the advantages mentioned by Federico. But first of all, the work assigned, lavoro assegnato. So then we look at what's going on in the text. So we've got so what happens sometimes with students is they ignore the introduction or the first thing that is asked, or for the speaker or the person asking the question in the exam. So this part, for example, where it says M1, this is the introduction of that listening. And it's important there because there are already 2 of the possible answers that they can give. So with what they're talking about, l'alternanza scuola-lavoro, so alternate school and work, impari cose nuove che potrebbero interessarti. Okay, now, what is interesting with Edexcel here, if you look at the mark scheme, they allow complete lifting of the text here. What can be, I'm not sure I've put it here, but what I've seen in other reports is that the students transcribe incorrectly. So what they write will then not make sense because they try and be phonetic if they haven't heard that word before. So how can you make that better? Now, obviously, from now, we haven't done dictations for the current year, 12 and 13, but hopefully, from next year on, they'll be more used to it. However, they can at home, sometimes I do get students to at home listen, transcribe even the first part of a listening so that it gets them used to the sounds and what words are like. And then when they're in class, I give them the transcript and they can check and then go back on it because obviously they still have the recording. So this is how they can improve on this. So this is for Edexcel. Looking at, as you can see, it is word for word. Similarly, with the second point that's accepted, ti viene assegnato un lavoro collegato agli studi. Okay, and again, you can see the second point here, word for word. And finally, then it's the person now starting to answer. I don't know if it's which Federico or Eleonora, ti aiuta anche a capire le tue vocazioni personali, i tuoi interessi. So again, aiuta a capire le vocazioni e interessi. So in the marketing, you see for Edexcel, they do accept the lifting of proper sections. So what I've highlighted here from the report is that weaker candidates found it difficult to select the correct information. So this is where obviously the practice of transcribing will help. You don't necessarily have time to do that in class, but as homework, that would be really useful. So the report, just at the top bit here, carries on that for Edexcel, summary skills are needed in this question 4B. And what is expected there, candidates are expected to summarize the main ideas offered by 2 different speakers. Summaries should be short, focused, and the 3 bullet points. So for Edexcel, I would say, lift from the text as long as they're lifting the right part. It's pointless just transcribing the whole thing because even some of my students in the past, but the answer is in there somewhere. no, it won't be accepted. You just have to give the actual bit that is being asked for. And at the end of the day, if examiners have a big, I have never marked A level in terms of officially, but you know, generally speaking, we don't have time to read the whole thing and assume that the student meant this. No, if it doesn't follow and the answer there, it just won't be accepted. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that. No, okay. Now, with AQA, the summary is very different. There are 90 words to be written. I've taken this little spiel from Steve Smith, who I will show you later, but together with Steve Glover have recently, just 2 weeks ago, I think, produced this book. I don't know if you can see this. Oh, can you see still no, PowerPoint? Sorry, what have I done? I beg your pardon. What have I done?
We can see your video, so we can see your whole. So if you just go.
Are you on?
You go.
Yeah. Yeah, the number 10. Yeah. Can you see the book I'm showing at all?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So yeah, it's Teaching A-Level Modern Languages by Steve Smith and Steve Glover, who are both renowned A-level teachers, and I will talk a bit more about that. But from his blog, Steve Smith wrote this in 2016 before the new spec was coming out, and this is just for AQA. So he is suggesting not appropriate to copy whole sentences or long chunks. Sometimes to reuse an original word or phrase, because sometimes even as we all know, in an exam situation, the students are quite nervous and so on. So we're not expecting them all the time to try and rephrase something if they really can't find the word for it. But that's okay as long as big chunks are not lifted. And then to prioritize getting the main points across. Once that is done, then look at making the language more interesting. Because obviously for the AQA summary, both listening and reading, you've got the extra 5 points for language. Now, what I've got here is the...
Sharon, can I just, perhaps if you share it is a slideshow. Oh, you have, sorry.
Is this okay, yeah? Is it all right? Because yeah. You can see the whole screen now, yes? Yeah. Okay, sorry. Thank you, Helen. Please do interrupt me. So what we've got here, this is a listening summary. And we have, I've just focused on the first bullet point we asked for. And this is asking, so it is la représentation des immigrés dans les médias. Pourquoi Elise est déçue par les journaux télévisés canadiens? Now, the transcript, as you can see on the right, I have highlighted in three different colors there, the 3 main points, because it is worth 3 marks, of what's being said in the original text. And then what is then accepted as a key idea. So why is she disappointed by these Canadian journalists? So d'abord, j'ai remarqué que nous sommes souvent invités à nous prononcer dans les médias, mais seulement si nous protestons contre la discrimination. So that is obviously the main bit there. That is, as we've seen already with Edexcel, in the first person or third person plural. However, it needs to be referring to Elise. Okay, so why is she disappointed? Okay, however, you can see in the accept column here that they have accepted the null form if it's worded properly. So what we see differently here from Edexcel is that it is not lifted from the text. Okay, so what I would suggest to students is write down what you're hearing in terms of the actual what they're saying, and then put the points down. Think about, okay, what has the bullet point asked, and then change it accordingly to fit the what's being asked in terms of the text. I'll show you shortly as well what the report does suggest as well. We have this serious errors. They are in the mark schemes. So what is in AQA considered a serious error or a minor error? So serious error, we're looking at close to correct spellings, and they generally do not mean anything else. Incorrect gender, And then the serious errors are things like incorrect verb forms, incorrect use of pronouns. So they're the ones that will then not allow the student to access the top end marks for the language. So here, I'm not going to read through all of this, but for example, on the AQA French paper mark scheme on 2023, for the listening and reading summaries, you have this very comprehensive, it's the same for the reading and listening, examples. So this is just a generic example that they have in the mark scheme there. What, for example, the text includes, what the summary task is asking, and what the correct answer is. So particularly when you're starting, or even as a revision with what when students are practicing the summary skills, show them this, you know, whatever, even like I said, this is already sort of put there for you. Please feel free, you know, to use what I've put here all together, so it saves you sifting through the mark schemes and what have you. And then you've got another example here. Okay, so again, because of time, I'm not going to read through this there. But one thing I do want to comment on here, just above the example, I don't know if you can see the cursor, we have lifted language. So the second paragraph, last line, lifted language will not be eligible for credit when the AO3 mark is awarded. So they will be awarded for content, but not for credit for the language. Now, this is continued from what I've just said now. They do accept, I'm summarizing here, different items of vocabulary, but not needed. Okay. As what is they looking for is the manipulating of structures and to show a grasp of grammar. So this is what's important here for the listening and reading summaries. And then it explains here what examiners will do: award the AO3 mark on a best fit basis, and looking at the whole content. I did read the report from 2024, where some students lost marks because they wrote more than 90 words, so more scope for errors. Okay, so not because they wrote more than 90, but although that is the for the summary, they are aiming for that 90 words, is because more errors were made as a result. So moving on, this is still from the AO3 there. It's just, this is highlighting even more, you know, the AO3 for the language requires a level of manipulation of the grammar as well as a degree of accuracy. And this tells you from the 2023 report how many students managed to achieve that, or how many, you know, almost did, or why they achieved only, for example, 3 out of 5. Okay, now I've put this green is purely my own thoughts. The points I would suggest to revise with students is the passive for the summary. So give them some active phrases. I mean, my colleague doing French did a beautiful example this week, or was it last week? Anyway, so very thank you. You know who you are, Ruth. And changing the active phrases into passive, absolutely brilliant. And also potentially putting phrases with après-être and après-avoir, and getting students to change them into the perfect tense. Are there any questions? No? Okay. Right, so when we now move from the listening to the reading, I'm just focusing at the moment here for question 7 on AQA and question 9 of Edexcel. So with Edexcel on question 9, it can be a literary text or an adaptation of a literary text. For AQA, the literary text is usually question 7. Okay, and I'm starting with the Edexcel Italian. This is from paper 1, 2022, question 9. So with this particular, for some reason which I don't comprehend, I don't know if anyone can potentially give suggestions here, is why when students have a literary text or an adaptation of, they sort of go into panic mode and don't treat that text as they would the other written texts which are not from literature. and which means we need to do practice, just say, maybe even if it isn't, just say, okay, this is from a literary text, just to get them out of that panic mode. It's like the GCSE and the environment. It's still it's still a topic, it's still following the same things, but they seem to just panic. So with this particular question of Edexcel, Italian candidates generally scored well, but lost some marks due to lack of precision. Many did not manipulate the language, often just copying from the text and omitting one or two words. So that's another thing I see a lot in the mocks, that, again, they're just copying out, not really taking care of which part is really relevant. And in the mocks, maybe I'm harsh, but I don't give the mark for that. Even if the answer is sort of there, but the students do not know what they've written, they're just copied. So because of this, I don't give them the marks for it, and they need to learn. Yes, it's a bit annoying for them, but if we don't do that, then it's giving them sort of false hope. I always go, when I'm marking, I just think, right, I'm going to be the harshest person ever, and from that they do learn. We're not doing them any favors if we're just, oh yeah, that will do. Just always go with your gut instinct at the end of the day, but that's how I would that's how I do it anyway. And then more importantly, towards the bottom here, some candidates did not use a verb. So even though there may be the odd occasion where verbs are not needed, if verbs are used in the reading or listening answers, they're not going to be penalized for using a verb. Hopefully they're using it in the correct way. So I always train my students to use a verb following whatever the tense was in the question and person, and then answer it accordingly. They don't need to write in full sentences, as we know, but you must have a verb to start off what you need to talk about. So this is interesting that it's written in the report of the exam. So here in the Edexcel, I find these really good, actually, because with Edexcel, we've got, not we, as in Pearson, do a Results Plus service, where this report also gives you an ideal answer of what was being looked at. So again, it's a really good teaching tool to show students, pardon me, particularly after, it doesn't have to be a mock exam. You can just do one question and then show them, this model answer at the end. Or you can do it the other way. You can show them this model answer and then get them to do a similar question. Modeling, I would say, is a really good way of showing students what's expected. Okay, one of my many mentors in the past suggested always sort of start from the end. What do you want it to look like at the end? This is what it will look like. Now, how do we go about it? So I've always kept that in mind, even within my teaching. Okay, now we've got here with question 7. So this is the literary text from AQA. And I've highlighted this, from the mark scheme, where it says reject answers with untargeted lifting. I'm just reiterating the point I made earlier from Edexcel as well. When the students just lift from the text, they're not really reading or paying attention to what exactly do I need from here, and they just put it in as an answer. So this is clearly in the mark scheme that the answers which were just lifted without paying attention to the exact details required, then they would have been rejected. Okay, so what we've got here, sorry, I thought, bear with me, how do I go back? Sorry, previous, here we go. So from here, oh yeah, I haven't got the text here, but it is from question 7, 2023. The question was, qu'est-ce que le capitaine apprend en lisant le télégramme? And then we've got here, even though it is in, what does he learn? With the answer, we've got the perfect tense here, c'est évader. Okay, il voyage à bord de bateau, so present tense, il a une blessure, and so on. So obviously, without showing you the text, it's hard to see where it's coming from. But you've got the example here that you need the verbs to be able to make sense of what is being said there. Okay. Now, how we help the students in my department, this is from myself and obviously other teachers as well. So in year 12, we start with graded activities, and year 13, we do time translations and summaries, also paper 2, but obviously we're not talking about paper 2 today. But during lessons, why do we do that? Because translations, although it's good to do them at home, we cannot guarantee that they're not using Google Translate, okay? Never mind how many times we tell them, I'm sure you are the same. Although it is getting better, regardless, it is a point of just them being able to translate using the skills that we teach them without obviously going on Google Translate, because we should be away from that by the time we get to year 13. One thing I am going to mention, one of my year 12s mentioned today, we were talking about the IRP. And he said, oh, sorry, yeah, IRP, but then I wanted them to do a little presentation. He said, oh, can I use what's it called, ChatGPT? I said, no, basically. I do, I mean, to be fair, I know, as Helen, we have already discussed this, that, you know, we've had experts coming to talk to us about this. I would, you know, stay away from doing that at the moment. To be honest, I don't know much about, you know, can we use it, can we not? At the moment, I would stay away. I don't know, Helen, would you like to say something about AI?
I think, and Antonio, you've got some views, haven't you, about use of AI? And I suppose my own feeling is it depends on the context. That what we discussed, I think, last time was how there are some students who at an inbuilt advantage if they have parents or people who can help them at home.
Mm.
And that's where ChatGPT can be great if they are doing it for learning. But yes, what you've got here, I feel, is a solution that you're still making them practice, do something without it. So you can't always do it. So it might be there for the learning side of it.
Yeah, but then when it comes towards the exam, yeah.
Antonio, do you want to join in?
Yes, I did deliver a seminar on that for 30 students, A-level students last week. We were doing with AI. And especially for the speaking, because like we said, some students don't have who to train with. And then we showing them the ways they could use it helpfully. Yeah, for some things, of course, we explain to them they cannot use, such as writing pieces for them or translating. But for other things, to ask them, for example, if they are practicing a text, like you said, and to ask for example, ChatGPT to ask them questions about the text, and then they reply and then get feedback for that, as on top of what the teachers do, can be a way for them to use it in a nice way that can be supportive. Yes, I think it's the way perhaps to develop a kind of a strategy with them that they know when to use it, when it's not okay to use it.
Yeah, thank you. So another thing we do is after homework, for example, look at the common errors. And then, so this is where there is maybe a tense or more than that. So any grammatical point that comes up from a homework, then you can use that. And that would be done obviously also at GCSE, for example. What has come up, what are students still having issues with? And that basically means obviously grammar, you constantly need to revise it. Feedback on summary homework, particularly with the AQA. For Edexcel, what I do actually for year 12, because they're not used to, for Edexcel this is, so for me it's Italian, they wouldn't have had much experience with writing a summary, but I mean that will be for AQA as well. And what I do is get them initially to do a small summary in English first, because I always believe that they need to understand in their own tongue. I mean, most of our students are born here, as in I'm talking about my school. And that way, you know, we know that their home language is British English. However, there are the students obviously who are from different backgrounds. But generally speaking, if they are your, like our students who speak English all the time, even at home, even if they do have parents of different origins, but they tend to just revert to English, they need to understand what a summary looks like in English, and we can show them that initially, and obviously carry on with it. And then slowly, we give them short pieces. So for example, I don't know, 3 sentences, now put that into 1. And slowly you gradually make it longer and longer. Okay. And depending obviously whether you're doing Edexcel or AQA, so Edexcel, there is no summary for reading. But for AQA, obviously, you need to do more work on that with a graduated way. I have done this in the past, where it provides students with a transcript. It doesn't have to be something from an exam situation, but any other listening or reading that you use. But for transcript, obviously, the listening mainly, and work through the transcript, asking the students, okay, let's just look at this section. And then what can you guess is the bullet point? Okay, and you can then show them what the bullet point or the task would be. So that way it gets them thinking the other way around. Also, don't be afraid to show them detailed mark schemes and examiner's report, but also, again, it doesn't have to be exam-based, but whatever mark scheme you're using. I mean, generally speaking, we are using the exam board mark scheme. But even if you do your own reading activity or your own summaries, show them what you're using, because it really is a useful tool for them to constantly refer to what you are looking at in order to give them the marks. After the a mock exam or exams, it depends how many you do, I suggest you give them targets and feedback. I'll show you in the next couple of slides. Read at your leisure. Use what you want from this. And this is from 2022 Edexcel mock exam, and the kind of things I will say. And another good thing, sometimes also I use this as a starter activity, mark each other's work. Translations are a good thing there. So you could, before you show them the mark scheme, get them to read each other's translation, like not the whole part, just a couple of chunks. And then just get them to compare with each other. Why did, pick some verbs, maybe. How did you translate this verb? What person did you put it in? Which tense, and that kind of thing. They are actually really harsh with each other. I think I meant ruthless, harsh with each other more than we could be. Even though, like I said, when they're doing the mocks and so on, I am quite harsh with them myself. Now, this is an example. I'm not going to read through it. As a paper 1 feedback listening following a mock, I went through question by question. They really do work really well on this. The teaming's the target. So basically, I'll tell them what they need to do. With some activities, even though I say, for example, here, listen to news in Italian, then I want them to write something for me, you see. And then, as you notice here, I said we'll also do now more dictation in class. Why? Because of the transcription. And this is for Italian, as you can remember with question 4. They can lift from the text, but unfortunately, they're not writing the words accurately. And as we all know, those words might mean a different thing, a different word. And then this is the reading part. I said the same thing. For example, in Italian, we've got spendere, spend money, passare tempo, spend time. They're using it incorrectly. And then the target, for example, here, I said same as 7, 8, and 9. And then for the translation, what I've done from this was 2019, I think. What I did do, as you can see here, these chunks, they don't follow, but they are the chunks that caused issues. So I re-put them there, and they are the ones that then are grouped together in the mark scheme, left them a gap on the right-hand side there to try again. And then we're discussing, okay, I mean, this is from Italian to English. It should be easier than doing it the other way around. So that's what I've done for that. For translations, we have Edexcel, paper 1. You have from target language to English. And paper 2 is from English to target language, and they're similar. What I've given there, sorry, I'm aware of time. I've given you some ideas there of what you can do as practice. And I'll show you about a paragraph that's sort of divided into separate sentences already, rather than giving them a whole paragraph to begin with. With AQA, they are both in paper 1 from and to the target language, and from English target language is part of question 9. So a suggestion for that would be to tell students to highlight keywords. And for example, if they're written as a noun in the original text, how would it change to an adjective or a verb, and so on. And here I've given you some examples. So I'm going to start with the blue box here. So you already give them the verb in the language that you are teaching, with the tense that's needed, but not the person. It's up to them then to read it's not for this text, by the way, it's another text, this one. So they have to read the text in English and find out what person of that tense they need. Okay, so you can't give them everything, just give them the infinitive with what you need them to do, and then they have to figure out the person. So that's already they can do before they then translate the rest of the paragraph. This is an example of question 9.5 in AQA 2023, where you got the original text for question 9. For example, here we've got un comité d'accueil. Then in the translation, you've got Macron was welcomed. So, sorry, the highlighting came a bit different here, but what we need is obviously welcomed. So then you're asking them how to change accueil into making it welcomed, and then several hundred people will be centaine de personnes. So for this, for the English into French, they do have help, if you like, from the text that's given in the paper. Use this as extra practice for them. The green on Palio di Siena is where I have got a paragraph taken. This is obviously it's quite old, this one, but it's taken from The Guardian. It was a whole paragraph, and I chopped it up into 20 sections. Obviously here is only an extract. What I also did is add this what's here in orange, what for Edexcel is accepted for the translation English to Italian. This is some of the from the report, from the examiner's report, regarding translations, as in what's accepted, what isn't. They're looking at verb endings and adjective endings must be correct and classed as grammatical errors and not spelling errors. Adjectival agreements, such as this first sentence. So the first sentence of the translation was, the stereotypical image of the traditional family is just a memory. What the examiner report says is that the first sentence was testing the adjectival agreements. So they were looking for l'immagine stereotipica. And if the student didn't get that, and the right-hand side here, stereotipata, la stereotipata tipica, sorry, imagine was also accepted, but if it was completely different, that chunk was not accepted. Okay. Also, they made a point here that students did not know the adjective, they did not make the agreement. So these were issues which caused the student not to get the chunk. This is taken then further on in the mark scheme. This is for that same question. They've put the certain points which caused particular issues. So going back to my feedback, you can, if you are doing a past paper, it should have this, or the reports there. Show them this afterwards, so this is what they were looking for. How would you know which grammatical things to use? Go to the specifications. Okay, hang on, let me go back, sorry. So I put it somewhere. Yeah, so just to finish off here, go always to the specifications. So I know for Italian Edexcel, it's in Appendix 3, but it's all in the spec where you have the grammar list, and it's just a question of making sure that all that grammar that is in the specification is practiced at some point during the 2 years. I'm finishing off here with a couple of resources. So I mentioned the Teaching A-Level Modern Languages. I am not endorsing this in any way. I just saw it recently. Steve Glover does a lot for French. Now he does here dolanguages.com, a website that you need to pay a subscription for the year, where there are a lot of examples, particularly also on paper 2 for Spanish and French and German. We've got at the top here, La Prof de Français. She does, here you can click on them and it takes you the pages straight away. These are ones I'm using recently for French, Mademoiselle Pierre. For Italian, teachitalian.co.uk. Teachers are constantly putting resources on there, and that's looked over by Peter Langdale, one of our colleagues. We've got, so what is this? The download. I'm going to the next slide. Now, this download I use for downloading the YouTube videos, because I'm sure that you've had occasions where you've downloaded, or at least you put the link, but haven't downloaded the video and you're using it for listening, you go back and it's disappeared. So I found this. I used to use, I forgot what it was now. It was free, but it was getting all sorts of malware, so I stopped using that. I'm sure someone will tell me in a moment. But this one is free to begin with. And then this year now I've had to pay for the second year. Is £24 for the year. So you just copy it on YouTube, you paste the link there, and Bob's your uncle. So basically, and you can also, not just YouTube, but there's other things you can download. ilovepdf.com is my best friend, because if you find a text that's in PDF, you can just go, and it's for free again, convert it to Word. You might have to jig around things a little bit, but you can actually manipulate the text and make up activities from there. Zigzag Education have a lot of resources to help even with Italian, because obviously there are some of the minority languages which is a bit harder to find resources for. So Zigzag Education and Zigzag Revision, they are very good as well with the revision to put students on that they can access. The Do Language I talked about, and the News and Slow French, it is payable. I haven't actually subscribed to it because I do find it quite expensive at the moment, but those who can do. And News in Italian, Slow News in Italian, I will upload it here. That is completely free, and you get it once every week with the latest news, and it's got a transcript, and everything is up to date for that news. Pardon me. For French, German, Spanish, you can get Caboodle. For A-level, and Edexcel, at the back of the question papers, there is a list. I've got an Edexcel paper here of the resources they use. And it's really good sometimes to go where they find these resources, just to get similar to those which have been chosen. Okay. And that is it from me. Over to Helen.
Well,
I'm going to stop.
Yeah. So much. A round of applause, everybody. You want to open up your videos? Good. See you.
Thank you.
Lovely. Really great ideas. I was taking notes, and I think that's what people were doing. And various people were contributing to the chat. Antonio has been giving lots of information about IT solutions, plus some other ideas. And Sarah, agreeing with things that Sharon was saying as well. But I think when we have these sessions, sometimes you think, oh yeah, I used to do that and I've forgotten it. But your point about going to the source and going to the examiner's report, going to because really, especially for A-level, the students are really motivated, aren't they, to look at that. To see it. So lovely ideas. Thank you ever so much. Really good. So we've got people saying, thank you so much. Very good. Thank you. Lots of interesting tips and resources. Many thanks for the session. And what I'll do after this then, Sharon, is, I mean, I've got a copy of it. So I will.
I just need to add I can send you the Slow News in Italian, which I forgot to put there. And then, everything's good to go.
Then we can link to it. But I mean, so many ideas. And you won't have read the chat yet, Sharon, but the one that was new to me was what Antonio said about PDF.
Oh, yeah.
You can Go on, Antonio, you can tell us in your own
Yeah.
words what you can do.
Oh, no, that's interesting thing because with ChatGPT, whichever picture you have with text, if you upload it and ask it to transcribe the picture for you, it transcribes everything. And then you can ask it to create questions for your lessons straight away from the text. So it's advanced, but you have a number of pictures you can upload per day though, if you're not paid member, like I am. I'm not either. So yeah, but it helps. Yeah.
So Salome, what are you mentioning? Hugo de Cryptictus. What's that, Salome? Do you want to? People are allowed to open their videos and speak. Do you want to tell us?
Yeah, hello. Hugo
Hi.
de Crypt is he is a person that does a lot of videos on French news, and he has now a newsletter where he selects some points of the video of the news, and then you can click on his links, and there are loads of text and things and articles. It's very interesting and quite good for all the topic-based thing of A-level.
Great. And this is something, because I know that we very deliberately decided that these were things where anybody teaching A-level could get something from this. But it may be that we say there is a point in sometimes having everyone who's doing Italian, everyone who's doing French, just to share the resources that you're using. So, and your students like following you on Instagram, right?
He's got an Instagram account. It's actually really good.
I'm feeling
Worth a
left
follow.
out here.
It's worth a follow. It's really good.
I appear to have 3 Instagram. I don't know where I am on Instagram at the moment. I think. Anybody else got anything else that they'd like to say or offer? Or I realise it's we've been together an hour and that was great. Lots of ideas, and you did keep stopping on the way, Sharon, to say.
Yeah, sorry, I don't like talking but like I said, I just wanted to give some ideas.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not exhaustive, but it's just a starting point.
No, it was great, and I could see people, and it's nice actually to see some faces. I could see Zine there and Sarah.
Writing away. Thank you.
Oh, and we've obviously got people here who could. Deirdre, are you Deirdre? Are you going to show us who you are, Deirdre? Because I think I know you, don't I? Do you want to show yourself? But Elizina, you're going to perhaps do a session, aren't you, at some point?
At some point. Can I let you know? Because I am tonight I can't even talk.
But Elizina, has that been helpful for paper 1? Because I know you said.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have to put together an assessment because my problem is that I only have 3 hours. They basically lost 2 teachers last year, and we have an online A-level French with me supporting for only 3 hours.
Oh,
that's awful.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, I do what I can, but I've been asked to, to prepare an assessment. What they've done online is the l'évolution de la famille.
Yeah.
Et la cybersociété. That's all they've done. So how do I create an assessment for that?
I can give you some tips.
Yeah. So maybe I'll we'll talk.
We'll talk, yeah.
Yeah.
So just to tell the colleagues, easyitaliannews.com is the Italian one, and that's completely free to sign up to, and I got the students to sign up for that. So I will put that in the resources as well.
And thank you for sharing your video, Deirdre, because I'm sure we've seen each other, haven't we? And that was where I think I see names and I haven't seen people for a while. So good to see you. What do you teach? Which A level are you doing? Have you not got the bit? I'm sorry. Don't worry. Don't worry. So, but certainly, Elizina, when you're ready to do something, Sarah, I know that Natalie is going to do a session at some point as well. And Antonio, I think we just need lots of sessions with you, please, about lots of things you can help us on. There's A-level, there's ChatGPT, there are lots of ideas there. So
no, happy to do it sometime. I'm just I don't know if you're familiar with these Conju apps. I mean, You can use it for free for certain tenses, but if you get the subscriptions for life, I think I paid like £4.50. It's worth it, and it's available in Italian, French, German, and Spanish. And it's fantastic because they can select, for example, if you only want to train regular verbs, which tense you want to focus on if you want to, and it's fantastic. I mean, I use it for all the 4 languages, and it's been very useful.
Yeah.
So if not familiar with it, it's something to try to
And
check.
does it self-mark?
Yeah, and then you have all your data there, which verbs you got right, and throughout the year. So I was doing the one in
Oh
French
wow, that's
when I did
amazing.
the PGC, and all the data there. So you can even ask the students to show you how they're doing with it if they are using
So
it.
can you copy the link and give it as a
It's
homework?
there, it's in the
No, it's that. So it's like the app. It's just an app, and then they need to have it. So like I said, I think for free you can use present and in the past, if I'm not wrong. But if you want to use the whole thing, I think it was £4.50 when I paid for it, and it includes all the languages, I think,
for
if I'm
life.
not
I
wrong.
like
Yeah,
that. For life, you'll be doing
yeah, for life. Yeah.
creating
So I
words.
tell my students don't buy any grammar books. I always recommend that. To them.
Oh, great. So you pay for them or they pay themselves?
No, they paid. Yeah,
They pay
I mean
four
they want,
pounds
but
50 for life.
I think that's what I paid for it, £4.50 per life. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cheap.
Yeah, unless it has changed, because like I said, I did it a while ago, but I know they can use some tenses for free
Okay.
to have a go. And it's good because it keeps all the data about where you got it wrong, and then you can also listen to the pronunciation of the verbs as well for each person.
Oh.
So for French,
Wow,
that's
this
very
is
useful.
amazing.
Yeah.
Conjou.com. Is that HTTP? It's the link is there. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
I've got it here. I'm just this is it here.
Oh.
So there we are. Conjugations. And I like the idea that it says never be confused again. I'd love that. I need that. Just genuinely, that'd be good. And I just thought when you're talking there, I made a little sad face because I just read what Deirdre said.
Oh.
Sadly, is what's happening in schools, isn't it? About the phasing out of various.
Oh.
We do need. I was sitting on the train, just to tell you this. Yesterday, I went to London because I'm retired and I can do that. Took my cello to get a new bow. Coming back, if you've got a cello, people talk to you all the way. I had people talking to me, and this lovely young girl, gosh, she was lower sixth girl, started talking to me because she plays the cello. We talked on the train. She loves German, absolutely loves German. And I found it interesting. She said, well, actually, I'm going to apply to do German at Oxford. And she knows that because there are fewer people doing German, she's got a better chance of getting to Oxford because of it.
Ah,
And I
Oh, wow.
true.
great. And the whole carriage was hearing a rather loud conversation of a very, very competent people talking about German and how wonderful it is.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Should I stop the recording? Sorry. Where is the recording? More. Oh, there we are. Stop recording.